Out to an On Your Side follow-up, Amazon has confirmed 2 positive COVID-19 cases at a fulfillment center in North Jacksonville. But employees tell us they are concerned there is not enough being done to prevent the spread. Alex Osiris first broke the story last month, and tonight he has a new statement from the company.
Amazon employees across the First Coast reaching out to the On Your Side team, concerned for their health and their jobs. Dozens emailing, calling, and messaging, telling us that a lack of protective steps at the warehouses are not giving them much hope. One employee who wished to remain anonymous told us that at her facility, Jax 2 on Pecan Road, where 2 positive COVID-19 cases were reported, didn't have enough sanitizing supplies for employees on the floor. This is a text message from that same employee that was sent by the company, alerting them of a positive case. At the 103rd Street warehouse, an employee emailing that he feels warehouses should be closed and fully cleaned, as Amazon has done in other states. We've reached out to the retailer several times, and in the latest statement, a spokesperson said this, quote, "We're continuing to monitor the situation in our facilities, and we are taking proactive measures to protect employees and associates who have been in contact with anyone who's been diagnosed or becomes ill." Questions about how fast employees are told about cases were not answered. Amazon added it is following guidelines from the World Health Organization and taking proper precautions. Reporting, Alex Osiris, First Coast News, On Your Side.